Good morning. This is a going to be a series of videos based upon mean reversion trading. This is something that I'm just putting together in HGSI scans for prospecting and trading overbought and oversold securities. And this is the first video. These are HGSI scans that I've been working on, and I want to share them with you now. I'm not going to get into Think or Swim today. I just don't have time to do both. But next week I will. And hopefully midweek I can have a live session for questions and answers. Okay, as usual, any stock index or ETF mentioned in this presentation is not a recommendation to buy or sell. All trading strategies are used at your own risk. If you want to try the software, just go to highgrowthstock.com and you'll see a link to download the software, and you can try it free for 30 days with no credit card. Now, mean reversion trading looks for stocks, ETFs, and so on that are optionable. They have to be optionable, that are either overbought or oversold. And the overbought and oversold comes from the Bollinger Bands, which is the dotted line here, and the Keltner channels. Now I'm going to explain this, and where I am right now, I'll bring up the quick pick. I am in my Essential Warehouse Views. This is where I built this. Folder number 7, Mean Reversion Trading. And I have 3 scans in here. I need to renumber these right now. Somehow I went from 1 to 3. Let me change that and then I'll come back. Okay, that's better. I know what I was going to do. I was going to insert a couple more scans here, and then I decided there was really no need for them. So I just got to, or I had to go back and renumber these. Anyway, these scans go directly to optionable securities. That's part of the filter. If I bring this filter up, it's a very basic filter, and these stocks belong to the weekly OCC and CBOE active securities, which are updated. That list of stocks is updated automatically in HGSI every so often. I'm going to begin by pointing out the relationship of the fields that I put into these scans relative to the chart, and show you where they are in the chart. So I'll just start right here. The first of all, the ADX, or the directional movement indicator, was developed many years ago by a man called Wells Wilder, and it's been in use for a long time. It's still valid, and it consists of multiple indicators. There is the DI1, DI plus, DI minus crossover direction. If it's positive, it's a 1. If it's negative, it's a -1. And that is represented down here. Let me get an arrow. This is the DI plus, and this is the DI minus. Crossover positive is, it's green. If it's 1 represents green, or the green is above the red. If it's 1, if the green's below the red. On this one right here, I'll just click on that, and you can see that the green is below the red on this particular stock. But I'm going to go back to Zoom video and use that since I started there. So the crossover direction is positive. The days since it crossed over, 4 days, 0 is always the crossover day. The DI plus, DI minus. This number represents the difference as of the end of day close between the green line and the red line. So if it's a high number, we know automatically that these lines are spread apart. That is the highest number in this list of 326 stocks. So this was a very volatile stock, and it's still going up even after last night's close. The ADX represents the trend, and that is the cyan line. Now, a strong trend, and this number, the trend can either be up or down. And if the trend is really high, like 40 or above, it means a strong trend. So I'm going to bring this stock up, and the trend is strong because it's a big number, but the trend is down. So you can see the cyan is up near the top of the window. That doesn't mean it's a positive trend. It just means it's a trend, and it's a strong trend because the number is so large. Let's look at one more. Philip Morris. Now, this is a strong trend, but it is a strong trend to the upside. Remember, that is the cyan line, the DI plus, DI minus, or the DI crossover is the minus, is a negative stock or a negative trend at the time, and the one, if it's positive, it's just number one, that is a strong positive trend. Now here's a stock, this ASTS has been really strong over several months. You can see the weekly chart over here, and the ADX number on this is 57. The crossover happened 70 days ago, and the width between the green and the red as of last night's close was 26. So by doing various sorts, you can locate strongly trending stocks, and then if you look over here to the left, the crossover direction, you know this is a strong trend to the upside. Now the next column is the Bollinger Bands. This, most of you are probably familiar with the Bollinger Bands. This is a volatility-based indicator, and the bands are from 0 down here. This is the dotted line to 100, and this number represents where the last price was as of the closing price last night, between where it's located in the bands. So Peloton Interactive as of last night was outside the band. Here's the band behind it, and you can see that it closed outside the band at 133. Now going in the other direction, here is Hertz Global Holding. As of last night, it was outside of the band and was negative. But everything else is lying somewhere between. Now, what we're looking for with this mean reversion trading is we like to find stocks that are actually trading near the bands, either the lower band if you want to be bullish, and the upper band if you want to be bearish. Now the other blue lines, this is the Keltner channels, and the Keltner channels are based upon the average true range, whereas the Bollinger Bands are based upon volatility, 2 standard deviations over a 20-day period. So it's a volatility indicator. When it gets to extremes, when a stock gets to an extreme, more than likely it's going to start bouncing back. Now, you have to really consider the trend, though. If a stock is in a strong downtrend, and even though it trades outside the band, the chances of it just bouncing back are not all that great. But if you find a stock that's trending up, let's find a positive one trending up. This would be that's the utilities sector. Let's bring it up, see what it looks like. Trending up, and this was in a long-term trend. It pulled back, but this pivot point is higher than this pivot, and then you can see we are getting some VPA flags here, It would have been tempting to take it there, but it went down further, and then finally it started going up again at this point. This was right on the Bollinger Band, and then this day it closed inside and then started making progress to the upside. I'm going to put a crosshair on here, and you can see that this was still negative, because this would be a -1 because the green was below the red, and at this point it crossed over. So this would be a real early entry here, but it would have been safer to wait for the crossover. But by that time, the spider sector had moved a little bit. So you can never be sure what's going to happen, but when you put these trades on, you're going to give yourself at least 30 days for it to work out. So even if this trade were put on here, you just hold it, and because you're not going to lose much value. And then if it starts going up, if it gets past this area here where you purchased it, then you would be in a profitable trade. Now I'm going to go back here. This is in an uptrend. Here is a sell-off with an effort to fall, and that occurred right at the band, right outside the band, and then the next day there was a bullish flag, and it took off. You can see the DI crossed to the upside on this effort to rise right here, but this was the first indication that this ETF was starting to move. Now, this was a narrow trading range here, and you can tell that because the Bollinger Bands were inside of the Keltner channels. When that happens, a lot of time nothing is really happening, but I should say not much is happening for movement, but you have to use your judgment. When you see a strong move like this after a sell-off, and then the confirmation comes here, you've moved quite a ways away from the Bollinger Band at that point. So sometimes when you see a bullish candle like this, it is just a trade you can consider taking, and this would have been immediately profitable. But even if it just bounced around here for a while, you have 30 days to work with. Now I'm going to get into putting on trades and so on when I do the next video, and I'll have to do that in Thinkorswim. So you can see your risk using a risk graph and how much time you have and how it's going to appear over that 30-day time period. Okay, let's get back to this. So that's what these fields represent, and you can sort on any one of them, and I'll be doing this several times in videos looking for potential trades. But that's what these columns represent, and you can see down here in this chart I have a lot of that same information right in here. Now I have not talked about the RSI, but when this blue line gets down near the bottom, this is Wilder RSI, that indicates that the security is oversold. When it gets above it, or near the line, it means you're getting into overbought territory, and that's where we are right now. Now I want to point out that my 3-6 crossovers and the same thing on the volume point of control is another thing you should be looking at for crossovers. Now let's go down here. Let's look at Airbnb. You can see that 3 days ago the 3 went down through the 6. Yesterday the volume point of control went negative. I'll bring up this stock, and you can see that this stock has been pretty hammered. It dropped outside the Bollinger Bands, and then it's held steady and come inside, but the 3-6 crossover is negative. But if you go to chart number 1 here, I have the 3-6 right here, so you can see that it's been negative. Well, it looks like it barely turned positive here, and then it's negative again once the little rally here fizzled. So now I would have to determine if I want to consider this for a position. You can see the VPOC turned positive today after turning negative yesterday. The 3.6, it looks like it's still negative, and this is now inside the bands because of this huge gap down on earnings. But look at this, you can see VPA flags signaling that there were buyers stepping into this. Now, this is a broken chart, obviously. You can look at the weekly chart, but you can also see some accumulation is starting to take place. Now, ideally, you want a stock down near the bands, but this is inside the band because this has had several days of holding the line or accumulation. Now, this stock, I would be more inclined because of the volatility and how far it's fallen and the positive VPA flags. This would be more of a bullish trade. Right now, I'm not that crazy about it, but the odds are that it's going to go up rather than down. Let's take a look here. Okay, it had earnings, but they were way down from the prior quarter, and that's what happened. But you can see also that there has been, as I've already mentioned, some accumulation. Now I'm going to go back to my number 3 chart, which has this information in it. I just want to point out that there are charts here that do contain the 3-6 crossover. This is number 1 with just the Bollinger Bands. This one has the Bollinger Bands and the Keltner and the 3-6 crossover. This chart has the ADX in it plus the RSI. This is Bollinger Bands with support and resistance lines, which are drawn in automatically. And then this is ATR only with pocket pivots and the 3-6 crossover. But I primarily use number 3 because it contains all the same information that I have up here. So let's just take a look here. This is the end of day. Let's go to the intraday. And I'm going to sort on this. My percent range, the combo. Let me get this back in position. The combo is the percent range and the percent price change intraday. Now here's the Kava group. Notice that the crossovers happened 13 days ago, both on the 3-6 and the VPOC. This is up 22% today. It's a positive DI, of course, and that happened 9 days ago, or 10 days ago, 0 being the crossover day. So these actually crossed over ahead of this. The spread between the DI plus and the DI minus is 19. The ADX is 23. So trending, but not that strong. And the Bollinger Band is 88. So it's going to be in the upper range. This is the 20-day moving average. Here is the upper band. Well, let me bring up the stock. I've got the wrong stock here. So this was yesterday, and look at it today. So a very strong stock yesterday, but this would have been an ideal trade back here to the upside. You can see the weekly was really strong except for these 3 weeks here, a pullback, and then the big move up here. And this was, what day was this? This is on the 5th of August. What's this week here? That's the 16th. That's the 9th. This is the 2nd. So it happened during this weekly bar right here. The pullback got outside the band here. We had a test, confirmation of that test, and it took off, and it's still going. So when it was down here, or at least on the opening on this, it was below the band or in an oversold position. Now, if you look up here, let me bring an arrow up. This is the industry group, and you can see that this group was going down, and then when this stock got outside the bands and started moving up, notice that the entire restaurant group started moving up too. So not only do we have this information on the crossovers up here, we can also look and see what the industry group's doing if it is a stock. Now, there are ETFs in these scans also, but this is just a confirmation of what is happening here, and this turned out to be a really good trade if it had been taken down here. Now, of course, it's extremely overbought, and this stock could go into a watch list for a potential trade to the downside because we're getting a bearish flag here. I have to take control of the cursor again, and you can see there is an effort to rise, but we're getting contradictory signals. This is an upthrust bar, which is a sign of weakness, which just means that everybody is jumping into this stock now, and it may be exhausted. Now, the market's really strong right now, so it's a little tough to take contrary trades, but on the other hand, there really aren't many opportunities for oversold stocks. I'm just going to do a sort on the Bollinger. You can see these are overbought: Peloton, Zoom, Lucid. If I resort and look for stocks that are in the lower part of the band or outside of the band, this is Hertz Global Holding, and this was the calculation as of last night, but there's a little buying coming into it. But look at the weekly chart. It's been down, down, down. There is some accumulation right now. So I don't know how these options trades without going in and looking at them, but that's something I would have to do in Thinkorswim. But another thing that we need to be aware of, or you need to be aware of, according to the author of the book, if the bands, Bollinger Bands, are trading inside the Keltner bands, that means there is little movement, or the volatility has come out of the stock, and the opportunity to see a significant move is not there. So here's the Keltner channels, the blue lines, and of course the yellow lines of Bollinger Bands. So you can see how quiet it's been. There's just not a lot of movement in this cheap stock. Now let's look at U.S. Steel. This is just above the Bollinger Band as of last night's close. This is today. Here's the close last night. Still going down. There's really no opportunity here because I don't see any sign of bullishness. The DI plus, DI minus is negative. It happened 4 days ago. Same thing on the crossovers 4 days ago on both of those. So still going down, and the Bollinger Bands, or at least the bottom band, is inside the Keltner channel. So there's not a lot of movement right here, right now. But it's one that you could look at in the future to see if it stabilizes. There was an uptrend here on the weekly until this week, and I don't know the news on it. I think the Japanese were trying to buy this, and maybe that has fallen through. I don't know, but it's not setting up in a buy position. We're not getting any bullish VPA flags. Let's take a look at Hawaiian Electric Industries. Is closed down 3 went down through the 6 13 days ago. The VPOC turned down 4 days ago. It is up today, so let's take a look at it. It's at 65% of its daily range. The Bollinger Bands were outside of the Keltner channel as of last night. We're starting to see a little buying here. Volume is weak. The industry group is strong, though, relatively strong, 73. It's been going up, so this is an oversold stock, but if we go over here to the weekly, you can see that there's really no trend on this stock, so I would stay away from that. Let's take a look at Scorpio. Well, this was in a nice uptrend, but there have been several weeks of downtrend, one bounce back week, but it didn't hold. Still going down. The Bollinger Bands, it's inside the band now and inside the Keltner channel, but look at the direction of the Bollinger Band. Down. Look at the 20-day moving average. Everything is going down here. Way too early to consider taking a position in that stock. Okay, here's Transocean. This is up 5.29% today. The weekly trends have been down, trying to hold her. This is a cheap stock, probably not a good stock to consider. Let me go into a different folder here. I'm going to go down into my non-index files. These are all of the options that the author has suggested for his watch list. Got the diversified, the tech, dollar-wide spreads, and everything combined. I'm going to combine folder. These are the stocks that he suggests. So let's look at these rather than wasting a lot of time looking at those cheap stocks that don't look like they have much to offer. So I'm still on this sort. We looked at Airbnb already. Let's look at UPS. Now, it's not trading in the lower part of the Bollinger Band. I can tell that by looking at this number right here. It crossed down 23 days ago. And the DI plus DI minus are 10. The number 10, minus 10 apart is what I should say. And the trend is down. So look at ADX. Look at the ADX on this. 30. And the ADX is right here. It was a stronger trend down, but you can see that the trend is starting to fall off a little bit. It went from up to down, and the DI plus, DI minus are getting closer together now. So this is one to keep an eye on. Must have been an earnings disappointment, but you can see there's been some accumulation here. Even though the stock is not trading near the lower band, you can see that the volatility is coming out of this stock because the bands have come together. Now, yes, it's great to find stocks that are trading at or near the outside band, but this to me looks like it's under accumulation right now. So the bands are not where we really want them to be, but all of this volatility has to be overcome. Now I want to move on and show you what else I have here. So this is end of day and intraday. You can see the same. I'm in the mean rev combined folder. 57 stocks end of day, 57 intraday, same list. Now I'm going to go into the mean reversion VPA bullish today, which are yesterday's signals. And this is end of day, and here's intraday, and you can see that these are all up intraday after having been down, some of them down yesterday. So intraday, and let's just take a look here. I'm going to take a look at, I'm going to sort on the Bollinger Bands. Zoom, we know, is outside the band, and Boeing is right near mid-band. Both of these are. So nothing on the extreme on the lower end, but Zoom is on the extreme on the upper end. I believe I looked at that already. But what this does is it scans and requires a VPA signal on the bullish side for the day. So this is a no supply. Let's just take a look at Boeing. And you can see that it's well away from the lower band. It's in the mid band, but back here when it was outside the band, a very volatile period right here, this was the ideal place to start looking for it, because there was a test and then confirmation and effort up, and then it's moved up some. But what does the weekly chart look like? Well, it was down, and it's really just been chopping around here for several weeks. Since we have so few stocks in here, I'm going to go into all securities by hitting my alternate spacebar key. Do an intraday update. And then I will apply the filter. You can see it's updating 11,000 securities right here. And it really doesn't take any time. It's amazing. And then I'll apply the filter. And that cuts it down to 53 securities, because remember, I'm going into that folder which contains the optionable stocks. So looking at this, we looked at Peloton already. You can see these are above the band, upper band. If I resort, let's look at the lower band here. Reversion is negative DI, happened 15 days ago. They're 10 points apart, and the ADX is 28, and it's inside the band, but it's the lowest sort. The lowest number on the sort is what I should say, and you can see that it was outside the band here, but it's been holding steady. This was a no supply. This was strength coming in here, and now we're getting a move up. Looking back here, you can see it got outside the upper band here, and then it went sideways for a few days. There was a signal, overbought signal, and then it went down, and that would have been a real good place to take a bearish trade. We're in a bullish market today, and some buyers are coming into this now. I really don't like this stock. Just it's an inexpensive stock. Now the author of this book likes to trade stocks $100 and above, because that's where the action is for institutional action. But on the other hand, if you look up here, you can see that this one trades 41 million shares per day, so it's very actively traded. Let's take a look. Go over here and activate the cursor. Let's take a look at Exxon, see what it looks like. It's actually been in an uptrend here. Recently it pulled back. Here we have a test and a confirmation of that test today. Now yesterday would have been a good place to put this trade on, but if we use his rules in the book, or his suggestions, I should say, you can see that the bands, the Bollinger Bands, are inside of the Keltner channel, so there probably won't be a great deal of movement. You want to be in a situation where there's a chance of a big move, like from down here up to here, before you can see the bands were outside of the Keltner channels, and then we had a nice move up here. But ever since, well, right here, you can see the bands are inside the Keltner channels. Now, these are not necessarily hard and fast rules. These are just suggestions that if the bands are inside the Keltner channels, there's just not a, or there's less of a chance for a big move. Remember, this column is just the percent B number at yesterday's close, and nothing outside the band in these 53 securities. And once again, all of these had some sort of a bullish VPA flag. Now the other side of this, mean reversion, these are bearish. This is end of day. There are 32 of these. And if I go to the intraday, there are 32. It's the same filter. Now, look at these bearish trades because we're in a strong market today. The bearish trade was a high volume down bar, but the prior day was an effort to rise. And this is up 21.97%. So this red candle with the VPA flag was a negative flag yesterday, but it was not, it didn't follow through today, obviously. There has to be some news on this stock. These trades were fighting the market, these 32 trades, and so only a few of them are down today. Here's ASTS, been extremely volatile. It's had a huge run up, but today I can see that there is some profit taking in here. Let's just bring it up. And you can see that it was trading outside the bands here. Bands are behind the candles, but it's running into resistance. It's just run too far too fast. Trade, or the weekly chart, is obviously up, but it's at a position now where it's potential trade to the downside. But I did look at the options on this today. The bid-ask spread is ridiculous. You need a stock that is not this volatile if you're going to take a trade, because you're just going to get a terrible amount of, let me restate that. The bid-ask spreads are just too wide. It's not tradable. This is a stock that's just going to have to be traded right now until those bid-ask spreads narrow. Okay, let's look at a bigger stock, Micron. Look at this ASTS trading 13 million shares. Micron down 232. Yesterday had an upthrust bar. And where was it relative to the Bollinger Band 0.6197? Now this didn't get up to the band. Let's make this full screen, take a look at it. Here was stopping volume, came back inside the band, had a nice move up, but it's stalling here. Didn't get up to the band, but here is, if you look at this, an upthrust bar, a sign of weakness, and it's following through today. The Bollinger Band, the 20-day average, is headed down, so this trend remains down. And it's probably it's a good possibility for a trade. This is a highly liquid stock, and even though it didn't get up to the band, it seems to be stalling. If you look down here, you can see that the DI minus is going up through the DI plus. And this is a good example of the ADX trend. This is going up, but it's reflecting this downtrend. Now, I wasn't going to get into Thinkorswim today. Let's take a quick look at this, and I'm going to end the video there. I don't want to spend a lot of time here. So I'll bring up Thinkorswim, and let's look at MU. I have this chart built in Thinkorswim also. Same chart. Going to look at simulated trades here. Looking about 35 days out. You have to give these time to work. This is a weekly chart. Let's see, it's at right around 102. So I'm going to look at an in-out spread, which means I'm going to look. This would be in the money. $103 because it's above the 102. So I'm going to just hold my control key down. I'm going to consider buying the 103, selling the 101, dollar debit. And let's take a look at the risk profile. So it's jumping all over the place. You can see right here would be the break even. It's right at break even now. $100 be $98 risk to potentially make 102 or 100 right now. So you can see it's bouncing around. I'm going to lock it in at $1. I'm going to see if I can get a couple of these, even though the market's really strong today. Okay, I've got an order in. You can see the limit order is in here for $1. If I'll see if I get filled or not. I'm not crazy about the trade, but I just wanted to show you that this might not be a bad trade here because it's run up against this Keltner channel, and here's a negative EPA flag, and then it was confirmed today. Weakness confirmed on down bar after the up thrust. So we'll see if I get filled. I'm just going to leave it there, and if it expires and I don't get filled, that's okay too. Next video, I'll do more interaction between HGSI and Thinkorswim, show you how I'm setting up this process between the two. Thanks for listening.